You may be seated.
Hello, Your Honor.
Hello.
This is a case of Brown versus Henderson.
Thank you, Jerome. Good day, everyone.
Good day.
Ms. Brown, you admit you were once head over heels for the defendant, Mr. Henderson. Now, today you say you're here to prove to him that he is the biological father of your 32-year-old son, Raydell. Now, Mr. Henderson, you have never met Raydell, and you don't believe you're his father, and today you say you're here to prove it.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Ms. Brown, can you explain how did your son and you end up here 32 years after his birth?
Yes, Your Honor. I was living in Jersey City when I met Mr. Henderson at a bar. Mr. Henderson was a DJ. Mr. Henderson came to the bar and told me that I had some sexy eyes, some beautiful eyes. By him being a charming, very good looking, Your Honor, we got contact with each other. We started dating. We had a sex relationship, Your Honor, and I became pregnant. He had doubt that that was not his child. Your Honor, being with Mr. Henderson, we continue to have sex, relationship, dating, calling each other, going to each other's house, Your Honor.
While you were pregnant?
Yes.
It's not true.
Yes, it's true.
Sorry.
It's true. Mr. Henderson was the only man that I was seeing in the state of New Jersey at the time. I
That's
had no
not true,
chance
Your
of being
Honor.
with no other man but Mr. Henderson.
Your Honor, that's not true.
That's true.
Me and Miss Brown,
is true.
we were
It
never
is true.
dating. We were never dating.
Oh, no?
We were never dating.
No?
Miss Brown was one of many that was on my team
Well, we're gonna
years
prove
ago.
it today.
And when I
We're
kicked her
gonna
off the
prove it
team
today.
is when
We
she
wanna
started
prove this
saying that she
today.
was pregnant.
Please.
Well, hold on.
She knew I had a lot of females in my life.
He sure
And she
did.
knew from the beginning I didn't want any relationship. I didn't want any more children than I had children. And during the time when she said she got pregnant, I wasn't even dating her, and I always used protection when I was with her because I was sleeping with multiple partners. So why would I do that?
All right, so you say you got a team.
Well, I had a team. Yes,
So,
she was just
what
one
you're
member of the team, and
so-
she got a cut slip. She knew about it. She knew I had a lot of females.
What you're saying is you were dating multiple women and
Right.
sleeping with them.
Yes, Your Honor.
And she was one of the women you were dating.
One on the team.
And Ms. Brown, did you know he was dating and sleeping with other women at the
Yes.
time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, that's why I said she was just one of the team.
This whole thing about a team just indicates that it was all a game to you, and if you were potentially producing children, that's not a game. That's real life. This is a young man here that's trying to figure out who his father is, and let's be respectful. Moving on. How did you find out she was even pregnant, or did you even know?
Well, I actually found out because one day I was outside the club. I was walking down the street and I seen her sister. She said to me, "You know, Linda's pregnant." I said, "If so, it ain't my baby." Because I had cut her off the team a long
You
time
know
ago.
why he said it
So
was
I don't know how
his
she gonna say it's
Because
my
he had
baby.
too
But
many
then she
women
told me.
that he wanted them to take care of his.
All right. Let's bring it down a
Please
notch. I'm trying to understand this. So you heard Ms. Brown was pregnant.
Yes, Your Honor.
You said your response was, well, it isn't mine because I know I used protection.
Your Honor, I told her, I know I use protection, but what I did tell her, Your Honor, only way I'm gonna believe the child is mine if we get a blood test. After I told Ms. Brown that, I didn't see Ms. Brown. This is the first time me laying my eyes on Ms. Brown in 33 years.
Exactly. After my son went on internet and found out who you was, you had all the opportunity to get in contact with me
Well,
in the
you
state
thought
of
I
New
was
Jersey.
his
You didn't
father.
have time for us.
Mr. Henderson,
married
Ms.
then.
Brown, it's amazing. After 32 years, it's like you all are in the room 32 years ago. This emotion is still running so strong.
I think it needed to come to a closing.
Your Honor, I just don't like the part that she's saying that I'm calling me a deadbeat for as a man, a dad, when I never knew the child was mine, and she never.
You did know.
She didn't stick
But
around
Ms.
to give me a
Brown,
blood test
Ms.
to
Brown,
prove the child was mine.
Let's be honest here. Behind a lot of your anger
I do have
and
a
all
lot
of that
anger
passion,
because out of 32
you
years,
feel
he
like
brought me through this.
you hurt.
Yes, I'm hurt. I ain't never thought about this man after I left Jersey City. He wasn't thinking about us. My son digged down into detail and found his father.
Right.
He wanted to meet him.
Ms. Brown, so when you found out you were pregnant, Someone else told him.
No, they didn't. I told him.
So you told him?
I told him. And guess what?
Afterwards.
He came and saw right there at a baby. He said he looked like me.
That's not true, Your Honor.
But he couldn't tell because
That's
right there
not
was
true,
such
Your
a
Honor.
baby. He
That's
even
not
kept
true.
right there when right there was a baby for me to go to court. He even came and brought him Pampers. He even came to the house and looked at him and played with him and cut his hair. If
So do
want
you
a father,
remember
why you doing all
doing that? Do you
Your
remember
Honor,
meeting?
What I remember is I was also cutting hair at a barbershop. She came by the barbershop and asked me would I cut her son's hair. I said, yeah, I'll come up to your house and I'll cut their son's hair, knowing she wanted
You
more
know
than just a
that's your
haircut
son
for the boys.
manufactured.
I came over and I took a look at the boy, and at the time, he looked like a guy that she was pronouncing in front of
Oh,
me
man.
at the bar. He looked like the guy. I said, that child don't look like me. And only way I'm gonna believe this child is mine, and we get a blood test.
So you did cut the baby's hair,
Yes.
I cut both her sons' hair.
and you told her at that time this couldn't be my child.
Exactly, because I had kicked you off the team already.
If you want more episodes of Paternity Court, make sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell. What happens between then and now, for 32 years after this conversation? There's never been a DNA test, and you've never heard from her again. How did they just disappear?
From my understanding, finding out years later, she said she took the boy down south and her father wouldn't allow her to bring him back up here. But I had never seen Ms. Brown. 33 years ago was the last time I laid my eyes on Ms. Brown. I didn't see her. We had no contact. I was out. I was a dancer. I was modeling. I was still getting into my broadcast situation. I was also doing radio. So I was gone a lot. I was never home. So I never had contact
So at
with
the
Ms. Brown.
point you walk out of her home after cutting the hair and say, I want a blood test, you never heard from her again after that day?
No, Your Honor, and I came back by where I knew she lived, and she didn't live there anymore. This is maybe about 5-6 months later, because I actually didn't believe the child was mine, because I was using protection and I wasn't sleeping with her at the time.
And so once you went back there and she was gone, did you try to look for her, or you figured,
hey, Your Honor, I'm sorry. Your Honor, I never looked, because I had doubts that the child was mine. And I figured if the child's mine, she knows my name, she'll go through the courts or whatever and find me.
I want to hear from your son now, Ms. Brown. Please step up to the podium, sir. Mr. Brown,
Yes, Your Honor.
I can see it was difficult for you to sit through all that testimony.
Yes, ma'am.
And I can see the hurt in your eyes, and I understand. What would you like to add?
Chris, what you got to say? Go ahead. I've been with you all these many years. You ain't lost nothing yet. You look just like the man, to me.
Ms.
Put
Brown,
him in
Okay.
that situation.
if you two don't give him a chance to talk,
Go ahead.
I will excuse you.
Okay, I'm gonna shut up.
Mr. Brown, what would you like to say, sweetie? I'm listening.
Your Honor, one thing I have to say is like, my grandmother raised me. I mean, like, I made different, you know what I'm saying, choices in my life that led to me joining gangs because I ain't have no father in my life. And it hurt. You know what I'm saying? My mom, she was there, but she wasn't in the house like she was supposed to. So if I would have had a father in my life teaching me like to do things, I wouldn't have made them choices in my life. Like, I could have been in the NBA. I didn't have nobody to help me.
You're looking for a place to belong.
Yes. I mean, like, how you sit here and say that I'm not your son, and we look just alike. I mean, this is the first time I ever seen him.
And when you see him in person, you see yourself?
Yes. I mean, we have same similarities. I mean, we like the same things. You say you was a DJ, you like to dance. I mean, I was a dancer. I mean, I used to go to different cities and dance and do music and everything. But you sit there and, I mean, you pass whatever you had in your life down to me. I mean, I do the same thing you do.
You know, as I listen to you talk about your story and the dreams that you had that weren't realized because you made some wrong choices. But the good news is there's always an opportunity to begin again. And as a defense attorney, that's what I used to always advocate for these young men. In court and even out of court, that you can start again. Your dreams do not have to die, and you can become all that you want to be. You understand? You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
So When did you decide to search for your father?
I was 28 and I always knew who his sister was. So I had looked her up on Facebook and I gave her my number to call me and she had called. And I was telling her like, well, do you know how to get up with my father? And she was like, well, you can get in touch with, I really can't remember their name. And he had got in contact with me and I gave him my number to get in contact with him. And a couple weeks later, he called and was telling me things like who my family was, who my brothers was.
And so when he called you, he acknowledged that you were his son?
I mean, no, he never acknowledged. I just told him who I was. We just went on from there. I mean, we had phone conversations and stuff like that.
And so, Mr. Henderson, when you heard about the Facebook post and you heard he was looking for you, you did make the call?
Yes, Your Honor. I looked at it like this. I remember back in time, but I grew up myself without a father in the home, you know? So I know every man want to know where they come from, you know? And when he called me, and when I spoke to him, it was like, we're going to find out. I didn't want to shun the young man and tell him you're not my son or anything like that, because I know how it feels not to have a man for the guidance in your life. But at the time, I just really for sure thought that he wasn't my child because I used protection. So what I did offer him was a person that he could call and he could feel secure with, talk about what's going on in his life. I didn't shun him. I never told him I wasn't his father. I told him I wasn't sure. But she goes back and she tells him, yeah, I spoke to your father. He said that you ain't his child. And went back and told him a bunch of lies.
And you did.
I never told him that because I never even told him I wasn't his father.
We're not going to start this yelling again. We're not going to start this yelling again.
Let me tell you that.
So, Mr. Henderson, this is the first time
I've ever
you're
seen
seeing Raydell face to face.
Yes, Your Honor.
And when you see this young man, do you see yourself? Can you see any similarity?
Now that I look at Mr. Brown, I see a slight resemblance of me in him. I really do. I see a slight resemblance of me. And
you actually submitted to the court an older picture of you. Mm-hmm. And that's you.
Yeah, that was me about 25 years ago.
About 25 years ago. So in this picture, you're about the same age that Mr. Brown is now.
Right.
All right.
Do y'all see the symbol? Come on now. Good-looking son like this.
He's a good-looking young man. I just never saw him before.
Yeah, but you saw him at the age of 2.
Well, if you'd have stayed where you were supposed to stay, we would know.
I wasn't
and he
supposed
would have
to
been
stay
in my
in Jersey
life.
City.
See, I blame her, Your Honor, also
Honor, I could
for
not
taking
live
the
in
child
Jersey.
down
All right.
south.
So remember, we're not going to
She took that away from me.
We're not going to do the yelling. We're going to try to figure out how to get the answers Raydell deserves and needs.
Yes.
And we're going to try to figure out how to move forward regardless of the result.
That's all I want.
Okay? Now, Ms. Brown, I understand that you're hurting. I really do. And truthfully, Mr. Henderson, I can understand a part of your doubt. I mean, if in your mind you thought you used protection and then someone tells you have a child, 5 months later they're gone and you don't hear from them anymore, a lot of people, if we're being very honest, many people would just say, oh, well, maybe that situation didn't materialize the way I thought and they've gone on about their life and you went on about yours. And yet, there's one person in this room that didn't just go on with their life. And he's here.
Yes, Your Honor.
And he potentially could be your son.
Yes, Your Honor. I feel bad about that.
So, Mr. Brown, I have to ask you, what are you hoping for today?
I mean, I hope the results come out that he is my father. I mean,
You do?
Yes.
Me too.
We can move forward and he can be in my life and my kids' life.
And Mr. Henderson, what are your hopes?
My hopes is to get resolution today to find out if he's my son or not. I'm going to embrace him just as though I embraced him when he first got in contact with me and said he was my son. My arms are wide open. If you're my son, you're welcome with all my heart.
Man.
I'm glad to hear you say that, sir. Jerome, I think it's time for the results. These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics, and they read as follows. In the case of Brown versus Henderson, pertaining to 32-year-old Raydell Brown. Do you want to watch Paternity Court on TV? Go to paternitycourt.tv to find your local listings. In the case of Brown versus Henderson, pertaining to 32-year-old Raydell Brown, Mr. Henderson, you are not his father.
Oh, no!
I told you.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, Lord. Oh, no. I'm not going to feel, I don't feel no remorse. I'm sorry that I thought you were the father because y'all look so much alike.
I understand.
Miss Brown,
Yes, Your Honor.
do you know?
What I went through.
No, do you know who your son's father is?
Your Honor, I don't know who the father could be because I was dealing with Mr. Henderson.
Your Honor, I like to say, like I told Raydell, he can still call me. I'll still be there for him, even
Thank
though
you.
he's not my son.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. You know, your son was so upset,
Yes.
he literally ran out of the courtroom. My heart is breaking for him right now.
Your Honor.
Ms. Brown, all I can ask at this time is that you sit down and think. Court is adjourned.
Now?
Jerome, can I see the plaintiff, please?
The judge would like to speak to you.
Huh?
The judge would like to speak to you. Can you approach the bench?
Yes.
Ma'am, your son is very upset. A lot of his anger is going to be directed towards you. So now, as his mother, you have to do your part to help heal your son's heart, but also help do what's necessary to turn him around. Maybe he wants to talk to someone. Even if he doesn't, just encourage him to. You go with him. Talk this through. All right?
All right.
Go give your son a hug.
All right. Thank you.